Spider-Man, El Hombre Araña, Across the Spider-Verse is out, and it is simply one of the greatest films out there right now. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was the prequel, I guess, to Across the Spider-Verse, is one of the greatest films, really, that I've ever seen. I went into it knowing that I had to watch it simply because the buzz around it, I think it really took a lot of people by surprise when it came out in 2019 or 2018, one of those. And, a lot of it is because it's animated, right? That's just the fact of the matter. When it's an animated movie, no one really expects to go in being like, oh my God, this is a masterpiece. No one really. Unless it's maybe like a Disney Pixar film or something, but otherwise, it's fairly difficult, I think, for people to sort of have really high standards for animation. But when I watched Into the Spider-Verse, finally, this is literally 2 weeks ago, or 3, I don't know. I literally watched Into the Spider-Verse the day before I watched Across the Spider-Verse. But when I watched it, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is just, not only technically, is the film incredible, and it definitely, I would say, at least mildly revolutionizes the animation industry and animation films in general. But storytelling-wise, it's a film that comic book fans say, this might be one of my favorite comic book films of all time, if not my favorite. And then, let's not even begin talking about just the genre of Spider-Man comic book films. And so, it really makes me think, I'm a huge, I prefer live action over animation any day of the week, but sometimes, when I watch films like Into the Spider-Verse, it does make me think, my God, is animation the best way to go for comic books? Or comic book films, right? Superhero films. But, I don't know. I'm a Zack Snyder fanboy. I watched Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and I'm like, never mind. But it is definitely a medium that it doesn't matter. You can tell a fantastic story with it. And Into the Spider-Verse, it's a Spider-Man film, of course. It's got comedy in there, but it has so much heart, and just the cinematography is insane. It's absolutely incredible. I highly recommend you go watch it if you haven't already. I mean, if you click this video, you probably have already seen Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, and oh my God, I can't wait for the third film, Beyond the Spider-Verse, that comes out next year. Thank God. But just incredible films, and I don't want to offend them so much to the point where I'm just like, oh, I was so surprised, but it's true, okay? But I'm sorry, I take that back, okay? And hopefully that doesn't come to bite me in the ass with Across the Spider-Verse, and I end up hating that one because my expectations are so high. Hopefully not, but I don't want to offend them anymore. I'm just going to be a little bit less, I guess, judgmental of animation. Or at least, yeah, my expectations are going to be, at a standard level. I'm not ashamed to say that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you feel that way too. Don't go acting like, oh God, animation's the greatest thing ever. And Into the Spider-Verse, yeah, I knew it was gonna be great. Don't do that. Don't do that. Or you might be that person. I don't fucking. Why do I do this? Anyways, in today's video, I figured we'd look at probably my favorite scene in Into the Spider-Verse. Just absolutely amazing. I know Across the Spider-Verse is, it's the hype right now, but I have to start from the beginning, okay? And I think I do prefer Into the Spider-Verse over Across the Spider-Verse. I don't know. I'm gonna hold back on that, but there's definitely moments that I love on both, and it's incredible. It's just that it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to speak about the two without necessarily spoiling, so we're not going to go into that. They're both incredible films. You need to watch them. That's for sure. But Into the Spider-Verse, it was the first one, so it definitely had the biggest impact on me thus far. But there's one specific scene in it that just blew me away. And right here, Scene City, the YouTube channel, they uploaded the scene. It's 6 minutes and 38 seconds. I mean, the scene that I really want to watch is a little bit shorter than that, but you kind of need the build-up, so that's why it's 6 minutes and 38 seconds. The video is called Into the Spider-Verse, Not Ready for Responsibility. So thank you, Scene City, for supplying the video. Not to me, but to the internet and to everyone else. We're going to watch the scene, of course. We're going to analyze it, talk about it afterwards, like we always do. But thank you for clicking on this video, engaging with me, really means a lot. We're getting up to 1,000 subscribers, which is insane to me. Again, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content that I do here. We react to music and to movie scenes, even occasionally video game trailers, video game whatever. I don't know. I don't really do any of those videos, but I do a couple here and there. But thanks so much. If you like it, again, please hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, into the Spider-Verse, the best scene from that movie.
Hey, bud. You okay? We've all been there. You know, for me, it was my Uncle Ben.
For me, it was my Uncle Benjamin.
For me, it was my father.
For me, it was my best friend.
Miles, the hardest thing about this job is you can't always save everybody.
Like if it was my fault, you wouldn't understand.
Miles, we're probably the only ones who do understand.
Oh no.
Who in here trying to start a fight?
That way. Other way.
Hey there.
Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak them out.
What's going on?
Bye, Miles.
Miles, I came to say goodbye.
We can say goodbye at the Collider.
You're not getting it. You're staying here.
I need to be there, so you can all go home.
They are going home, Miles. I'm the only one staying.
You're taking my place? If you stay here, you'll die.
I'm doing what needs to be done. I just wanted you to hear it from me.
What about MJ?
Not everything works out, kid. I need the goober. Please don't make me take it from you.
That's not fair. You gotta tell them I can do this.
It wasn't their decision.
I gotta make Kingpin pay. You have to let me make him pay.
Miles, you're gonna get yourself killed.
But I'm ready. I promise. Ah!
Then Venom strike me right now. Or turn invisible on command so you can get past me. Look, I know how much you want this kid.
Poor little guy.
But you don't have it yet. I'm sorry.
When will I know I'm ready?
You won't. It's a leap of faith. That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
God damn it.
Miles, it's your dad. Please open the door. Miles, I can see your shadow moving around. Yeah, okay, I get it. You're still ignoring me. Look, can we talk for a minute? Something happened. Look, sometimes people drift apart, Miles. And I don't want that to happen to us, okay? Look, I know I don't always do what you need me to do or say what you need me to say, but I see this spark in you. It's amazing. It's why I push you, but it's yours. Whatever you choose to do with it, you'll be great. Look, call me when you can, okay? I love you. You don't have to say it back, though.
Oh my god. God damn it. Did you see that? Did you see that? My god, this is absolutely incredible. Look, okay, first things first, you know, the film entirely, you know, it's very comedic, but what I love about the film is that it still respects drama, it respects tension, it respects sadness. You know, and it builds it up perfectly. You know, we start the scene with, you know, a little bit of seriousness with the engagement that Miles has with the other spider individuals. And there's a little bit of sadness, you know, they're mentioning, you know, for me, it was my Uncle Ben, Benjamin, my dad, you know, my father. And there's a little bit of sadness, and then, you know, Benji comes in, you know, with the music, and there's a little comedic relief, you know. But then, after that, when everything settles down, it goes all, you know, into the drama after that, you know, into the feels, you know. And I love that it really respects that, because at the end of the day, Spider-Man movies and Spider-Man lore in general, Spider-Man stories, they're funny, but like they're very emotional at the core, you know? And, you know, this Spider-Man, this Peter Parker in this case, I like it because, you know, clearly this is an older Peter Parker. He's got a little bit of a belly. He's, you know, imperfect. He, you know, completely lost Mary Jane in many ways. He doesn't have kids, you know, and he's funny, you know, and he's still doing Spider-Man things. But it's interesting that they went with a Peter Parker that, you know, kind of is a little bit more mature, you know, is a little bit wiser in a way, as flawed as he is. And he serves as a mentor to Miles, of course. But, you know, we're used to that, you know, Tom Holland, you know, esque, quippy, you know, Spider-Man. But in many ways, it's a lot like the Peter Parker Spider-Man, but also, you know, the Peter Parker Spider-Man. God, I'm such an idiot. God, everyone is Peter Parker. No, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you know, it's a little bit more toned down, it's a little bit more chill, but in many ways, Tobey Maguire was a lot quirkier and a lot nerdier. This Spider-Man from this Peter Parker from the Spider-Verse is a little bit more, you know, kind of suave, which is interesting. I enjoy that. It's kind of hard for me to think that he was a dweeb, you know what I mean? Like, but maybe he was. He probably was, and now he's sort of, you know, this wise, you know, kind of much cooler, you know, Spider-Man he's got everything under control. He's better with his words. He's not as nervous, and it makes sense. It makes sense that Spider-Man would have this mentality and attitude, right? You know, years and years into the job. So I appreciate that, and I like that dichotomy. And Miles is definitely that is Spider-Man at the core. You know who he is. You know, and in many ways, it's actually even a further deconstruction of the character. In the same way that, you know, the Peter Parker here, you know, the OG Spider-Man is, in the sense of he's so wise and he's so mature that he's now flawed, you know what I mean, in many ways. Whereas Miles is like under like the base Peter Parker, you know, like he doesn't even have his powers, you know, under control, you know, he's barely even figuring himself out. So it's very interesting. I love that complete dichotomy, and that's why this Peter Parker and Spider-Verse, the OG Spider-Man, and Miles Morales, they work so well because they're at the complete opposite ends, you know? Because, again, Miles is not Peter Parker, you know, at his normal level. You know, it's like early Peter Parker, you know? Let's move on to another point here because I write notes, as you know. Comedy. That's all I wrote. I have no idea. Probably one of the biggest parts in this scene, of course, narratively, is the OG Spider-Man is trying to get the goober, the little thing, to sort of destroy or to override the collider, right? From working and destroying everything as we know it. And he's trying to get it from Miles, and he's trying, but obviously Miles is stubborn, and he's like, no, I got this. They both have their best interests at heart, right? But ultimately, of course, OG Spider-Man wins, and Miles is so impatient. And finally, I love it too because OG Spider-Man just webs him in his mouth so he shuts up, which is like, what's the worst thing you can do to Spider-Man? You know, put duct tape over his mouth, you know, shut him up with web, you know what I mean? Like the moment a Spider-Man can't speak, like, that's a problem, you know? So I love that he does that at the very end. You know, he completely ties him up, which is interesting because that's what Miles did to Peter at the beginning. When he met him, he tied him up around a punching bag, I believe. But here, the OG Spider-Man, he webs him up, circles him up like a spider would eat his or her prey. But he gets the goober, and then Miles is like, when am I going to be ready, you know? And that's when I think he webs him in his mouth. And then he's like, you don't. You know, it's a leap of faith. That's all it is. And I love that so much. And that sort of interchange and that motif there is at the end of the movie as well. I love that the mentor, OG Spider-Man, uses, he throws that at Miles, you know, as a wise phrase. You know, it's a leap of faith. You will never know when you're ready. You just do it. You go for it. And in many ways, Miles, at the very end of the film, he throws that to the OG Peter as well. And it's like a full 360, you know. The mentor mentors the apprentice, right? And then the apprentice teaches something to his mentor. So it's beautiful. And that's how you know that they've both grown, you know. So I love that. It's awesome, and it really God. There's so many illusions too, you know, because this whole film has this. There's always like Miles always struggles to just jump off a building, you know. He always struggles with that. And then it's up until sort of nearing the end of the film where he finally does it for himself, right? And he believes in himself, or he just goes for it. And in many ways, you know, he gets the I think the Notebook or the Spider-Man comic or whatever it is. I think it's the Notebook that has the graffiti that he did with his uncle. He throws it out the window. The book is the one that makes the leap, right? He throws it out the window. It jumps out, you know, in the same way that Miles would jump out of a window. In fact, to even get out of this apartment as Spider-Man, you have to jump out. So there's a lot of small things like that. He throws out the book, right, and then it comes back to him. You know, it's almost like life is telling you, no, stop being a coward, you know, and that's what the Spider-Man are doing for him. That's what OG Spider-Man does. He throws that book back, you know, as a sort of like, no, you know what I mean? Like, that's not right. And it's the same idea, right? The book is doing the exact same thing that Miles should be doing. It's just done in a bad attitude, right? And it's done in bad taste. So that small thing there is very interesting. And, you know, Spider-Man, before he even gets out of the window, the OG Spider-Man, you know, he says, you know, it's a leap of faith. And that is such a very important thing here. This leap of faith aspect is found throughout the film and in this scene as well. I think most notably with his father, with Miles' father, when Miles' father finally shows up. I think Officer Davis, right? He has this thing where at the beginning of the film, he says, I love you, right, to Miles. He ends up raiding Miles with like the megaphone because Miles doesn't say I love you back. And at this scene right here, we see a growth. We see sort of a metamorphosis of Officer Davis's, Miles' dad, the character. And same thing with Miles. There's a growth in him. Obviously, as we see later, he on command, he goes invisible. He uses his electricity to break out. But his dad says, you know, I love you, son. And he says, you don't have to say it back, though. In many ways, when he's saying I love you to Miles, that is a leap of faith. You know, when you don't expect something to come back to you, right? When you finally just let go of something, you push it out to the world and you don't expect anything in return, right? It's perfect humility, and it's a belief and it's confidence in what you're saying and what you believe, right? So, yeah, Miles' dad, finally, he did his own version of leap of faith, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, just tell your son you love him. because that's what you feel, that's what the correct thing to do is, regardless of whether he's going to say it back or not, because it's fully being assertive with what you're saying, and it's respecting the decision of that other person. It's respecting the decision of just whatever comes out of life. Life is all about submission. Like, understanding that you can only do what you can do, you can only say what you say, and the world will react, and you will act accordingly from that. It's a very humble way of looking at the world. And in the same way, making that leap of faith, literally as Spider-Man, is being confident in yourself, doing that leap, but having a more humble way of looking at the world, in the sense of like, I am letting gravity take me. And if I fall on my face, that happens. But I'm going to do my best for that not to happen. But I understand that there are other forces at play here, that might affect my fall. But I'm going to go for it anyway, because I'm not a coward, and I'm willing to explore and go into the unknown and grow, right? Because at the end of the day, Miles jumping off the building, he's not fighting anyone but himself right there. That's what he's fighting, himself. And that's every single encounter in your life where you're like, I think this is the right thing to do, but I'm scared. But no, if you're scared, that's a good sign. That means you do it. And same thing with Miles' dad. He was afraid. He's afraid of saying I love you. Essentially, he doesn't want to say I love you without his son not saying I love you back. He hates that. He doesn't want that. He fears that, right? Not necessarily in the, I'm scared, but in the same sense of like, he doesn't want that. But he finally lets it go. He does it. And that's what really does it for Miles. That's what really gives him the inspiration, because he saw the growth in his father, that someone he loves believed in him, in a way, and respected him finally. And so that gave him the courage. And it's beautiful. But along with the leaping of faith and all of that, we move on to sort of the scene and what they're doing and how they build it, and really how they manifest it, with the division, between Miles and his dad. Just how Miles is apart, he's further away from his father. Miles' dad is right at the door of his dorm. And, he begins speaking. He says something happened. Miles' uncle had passed away. And he said, people drift apart, but I don't want that to happen with us, And I love how that when that's happening, when he's saying that, Miles is further apart, and then he keeps going closer and closer to his father. I love that. Just simple things like that really, really tell the story. And then, of course, we have that division between the wall, between Miles and his father. And then we finally break out at the very end of the scene where we see both, right? But they're both like right at the door, and even though there's that barrier, the barrier in a sense is like, Miles is Spider-Man and he's still hiding that from his father, but they're connecting so well, right? And that's what inspires Miles, and that's what inspires his father. But in a way too, I guess that leap of faith thing, I now that I think about it, it expands even further, because, this series in general has a motif of fearing, right? Fearing that jump, that leap of faith, that letting go. In many ways, Miles' father, he's so overprotective, as is his mother. And that's what parents are, right? They never want to let their kids, grow up. Their kids, always have to be their little babies, right? But at the end of the day, you realize that the mature thing to do for a parent is to let their kid grow, flourish, right? Spread their wings, and not hold them back, And Miles, that's what he wants to do. He wants to know that his family supports him and trusts him. And he's always doing the right thing. He's always trying to do the right thing. But he would like that little extra push, and he got it here. So, his parents make that leap of faith, and he does as well. It's really just brilliant. I love it so much. The music, along with the dialogue, just really, you saw it in my reaction. It definitely, had me, a little bit teary-eyed.
Look, call me when you can, okay? I love you. You don't have to say it back, though.
And, a lot of it is, I think it is animation, so although, I don't know, I watched Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and I absolutely cried with that film. I bawled. So it doesn't really, just because it's animation doesn't mean you can't bawl. But in many ways, yeah, I mean, if it's a live action film, I tend to cry a little bit more because, you know, you're seeing images that resemble yourself. With animation, it's a little bit harder to relate to because the artwork is different. It's another world, right? But whenever an animated film elicits a reaction to me that's somewhat close to bawling, right? It's really special when that happens. And this movie and this scene did that for me. And a couple things as well that I just want to mention, a couple things. OG Peter Parker, when he was getting out of the window, he was getting out of Miles's dorm. We saw the shot of him facing the camera, and he's about to jump out and swing away. And he's putting on his mask, and he kind of looks, you know, at Miles a bit. And that's the perfect mentor, right? The mentor that, like, has to discipline the apprentice, but still feels a little bit bad and a little bit guilty of what they're doing because it hurts. And maybe it's not guilt, it's just this idea of, like, God, I know how bad this is, how bad my apprentice is feeling, how bad my student is feeling right now. I know how bad it is, and I feel for them. But the reason why I feel for them is because I care for them, and because I care for them is why I'm going to discipline them and tell them to do the right thing, right? And that's what OG Peter Parker does, but he inevitably has that paternal aspect to him, right? And he does that small thing of just kind of looking with his eyes before he jumps out, and he puts on his mask and leaves. That's perfect. That was perfect character development right there, or at least showing us what type of character he is, you know, sort of kind of debating whether, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Did I not? You know, it's just, but obviously he knows that he was doing the right thing, but he did a leap of faith because the easy thing, the correct thing to do actually would have been to give Miles the access to it. Well, not the correct thing, but I guess, you know, sort of technically the correct thing because it was his world. It's Miles's world. OG Peter Parker would have had to sacrifice himself, literally kill himself to do this and to save Miles and everyone else. And so the technical solution of all this would have been for Miles to have done it, right? But Peter Parker's doing his own leap of faith, OG Peter Parker right there, you know, and he's battling with disciplining Miles in many ways, being his mentor, and doing the right thing for himself. I just love that relationship there. And I also love how, you know, again, that window symbolizes that leap of faith in many ways out of Miles's dorm. And throughout the scene, you know, we see Gwen and we see Peter Parker and we see Spider-Man Noir. They get out, right? And it seems as though they've left, but they're not. They're just hanging right there, like around the window. And it's brilliant. It's literally the metaphor of, like, they're jumping out. They're doing their forms of leap of faith because all of them care for Miles and all of them want to see him strive. They don't want to put a barrier between Miles and being Spider-Man. They don't want that for him, right? But they have to do the right thing in many ways. And they go through with OG Peter Parker's plan, but they get out, you know, and they're still sticking there. They're listening because they care. And in many ways, it's like they've stopped their leap of faith. And they're clinging right to the wall, right outside the window. You know, it's like, and you could tell right, you know, in Spider-Man Noir's voice and in Gwen Stacy's face, Spider-Gwen, just how bad they feel, you know. And it's the doubt that they feel. It's like a little bit of guilt, you know. Again, same thing with what OG Peter Parker was doing when he was getting out of the window. It's literally them, you know, stopping their leap of faith and thinking twice about it, you know, and waiting. And they ultimately do the right thing, but you know what I mean. God, it's brilliant. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. This Into the Spider-Verse best scene, reaction, and analysis, the not ready for responsibility scene. Absolutely love it. Just really mature, sophisticated themes, and sophisticated messages that this movie has. Absolutely love it. Storytelling is amazing. And of course, I'm not going to talk about the animation here. I mean, well, this was a very simple, sort of more dialogue-driven scene, so it's not really an action scene. But the film is incredibly done technically, of course. But thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Go in the comment section below if you agree with me. Disagree with me, too, if you want. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. And subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content. Or unsubscribe, too, if you're unhappy with my content. That's okay. If it's your birthday, happy birthday to you, you beautiful creature. That's it for me. You all take care. Stay safe. And until next time, I love you. And I can't wait for the next Spider-Verse film. God damn it!